Welcome to the third video of the JavaFX series. Today we are going to do a clock with animation. So this is something new, something involve animation. These three are the special kind of import you want if you want to do animations in your code, and you want to actually have a specialized action event handler, and then the rest are just basic GUI imports. So these three are the most basic, and then we use a border pane in this clock and position as well. Okay, let's start talking. You can see that it is actually separated into three different classes, and the main class that will be responsible for executing this program is going to be only this thing. So the main function that launched the application basically in every single one of our GUI program now. So you're going to override the start method in application, and we are going to name this stage lollipop. Okay, so we're going to actually go ahead and create an instance of object from both of these user-defined classes. And both of these classes, one of them actually extends pane, one of them extends label. So just by the naming doesn't name it extends pane. What it means is that it literally extends the label here in the building of in the declaration of the class. Okay, so James is going to go over it now. Okay, so what we're going to do is that we need to create a specialized event handler, and then we are going to name this event handler as eHandler, and it's going to be in this format. So you need to direct the event, and what you want to do is inside this curly bracket. So actually it goes like this. So event handler, direct any action event, and we name it, so this is our name, and equals, so we direct the event to something you want to do, and the statements are inside here. So whatever you want to do is inside these curly brackets. So in this case, it's actually just a format. So it might look a bit complicated, but it's actually just a fixed format. Okay, so you can imagine this as a piece of function that will run whenever it's called by this name. Okay, alright, so now you want to call this function on fixed intervals because you want a clock. You want the clock animation to be renewed every single second, right? So it's going to be, now the timeline animation will be constructed, and this timeline is an object as well, is a class. You create an object. In this case, I call it anime, and you need to have a keyframe. What this keyframe does is that you give it a duration and a action event to call. So a duration of 1000 millisecond means basically 1 second. And every 1 second you call this method, so it's going to run this method, okay, by using the timeline specified. Oh, okay, so now you want to set the cycle count. If you don't set the cycle count, it's going to be just one single time, if I remember correctly. Okay, so you want to set the cycle count to indefinite. So indefinite means it's this timeline. It's going to be over and over and over and over again until you stop the program. Okay, so this statement actually just let the timeline go. Play the animation. Okay. Alright, so this is actually the special part in this program than the earlier two videos from this series. Okay, so this border pane is going to have a clock and a label. So inside a border pane, I'm not sure if I can do this. This one here is going to be the top region. I'm going to do it in a graphical way in a text editor. So this one here is going to be left. This one here is going to be center. This one here is going to be right. So the entire top is going to be entire region is going to be covered by top, and then you have a bottom. So you imagine this as a entire square. Square like this. So you imagine this as a square, and the top is occupied by this. So you can see set center, set bottom. So the clock is going to go into the center, and this label of time is going into the bottom one. So it actually follows something like this. If your stage look like this, okay. All right. So this is actually putting the label in the bottom center. So you can see set alignment of the border pane, set alignment of this element to the bottom center. Okay, so the rest is just the same thing as the last few videos we do. So you set up a scene, you put the pane inside the scene, you specify the size of the scene, and the size of the stage is going to automatically follow the size of the scene. And you give a title of clock to this stage, and you show it. And then this main method is just going to launch this application here. So it launched the application, launch the overridden method of the application. So when you call launch, it actually goes to the start method, but the start method of the application itself is actually empty. So what we do is that we override it. When we override it, we can have our own defined method, but it's when the start method is launched, it's going to be go over the overridden method, which is user defined here as well. Okay, so this is basically what the main .java class do, and then you have a label and a pane here. The label is easier, so I'm just going to go over the label first. Okay, so you need to have a time. So you want to actually import a calendar and Gregorian calendar, and you want to have a font because I use a font design here. So you want to have font, and you want to have label because this entire thing it acts like a label. So what this means is that in a normal Java class, it doesn't extend everything. It's just a class on its own. But if this class it extends a label here, it's going to inherit the methods available in labels. So you know in ordinary labels, you can set text. So you can set a content to it. So you actually have a set text method. You also has other methods. So basically, what we use in this is set text. So since it extends label, this entire class is going to act like a label. So you can actually have this kind of label functions just used here. So set text is actually a method in label, and because we extended label, it's going to be available anytime in this class. Okay, and then you have a you have three integers that holds the hour, minute, and second. And whenever you construct this clock label class, it's going to set current. It's going to call this, and set current is going to have a new calendar object, and this calendar object enables you to get the hour, minute, and second. This is just a fixed method inside this Gregorian calendar. Okay, and then it's going to, after it saved this saved the values into here. Okay, so if I'm going to explain this, if some of you don't know yet, this is this. It's called the this literal. What this do is that this, if you use this inside a class, it's going to be forwarding whatever following it. It's going to mean the variable inside this thing. Okay, why do we use this is that this is just out of habit. I actually don't need to use this in this particular class. So if you have a method, um, if you have a method but you still want to name it hour and minute, which is which is overlapping with this naming. So if it's overlapping, it is, if you say hour equals to hour, it's going to be confusing, because you want to mean this hour is going to be equal this hour, but the computer is confused whether this hour is this or this, you know. So you're going to have a this literal. If you have this dot hour, it's going to know, okay, you use a string literal here, you use this, so it's going to look through this class and it's going to find this hour here. So it's going to say, oh, this dot hour actually points to this hour, and this hour, of course, is assigned from this parameter here. So this is what this entire thing means. Let's just throw that away. Okay, after you set the current value of this hour, minute, second, you want to write label. So you want to write the content to the label. So you have three strings representing hour, minute, and second. If it's smaller than 10, add a 0 in front. Else, just convert the number into a string. Okay, so in Java, it is actually very convenient to convert a number into a string. You can see that hour is actually an integer. If you concatenate with any string, it will automatically be typecast into a string, and then you have a string here. Same thing with minute and second, and then you need a string with all these things, and then you set text. Also, if you don't want to do it in this way, you can actually also just do this. It's actually the same thing, so you don't need this anymore. Okay, because this entire thing is just a string that you set, and then you want to set the font style, so set font. So you can see these both are methods inside the label class, so you see you can use them as you like here. Okay, and then you have the set width and set height here. This is also inside, but what this does is that it actually originally it had some of its own meanings. It has some of its own things inside, and actually it gets an argument here. So what you want to do is that you want to override, because this method already exists inside and it has some already defined usage. Okay, so this is just for recording, just ignore this. And this super lets you access the, what this means is that when you have a class, but then you have a, let's say you have a class that stands this class, and then finally you have our label that extends this, and then we are extending our label in our application. So what this means is that either the set width is inside the class above our label class, because we only extend label. But if we want to access the setWidth function in the even upper level, we want to use a super. So this super let us not just access methods in here, but also access methods in the chain of extents. So this is what super means. If anybody don't know or haven't learned Java before, every single object, every single class is extended from the object class. There's a class named object inside Java, and every single class is extended from here, except for the user-defined one, of course. Every class in the Java is extended from here at some point. It can be like a really huge tree. You can, a tree graph, and at the leaf is going to be a class, and every single one have a common root called this object class. Okay, so this is what it means when we use super to access the setWidth method, because this setWidth method is not inside the label class. It's inside the class that the label extends. So if you have like label extends something else, and this setWidth is inside that class, or any other classes above the hierarchy. And then you have setHeight also. So every time you construct this clock, it's going to run this by default. It's going to call these two, it's going to execute these two functions. It's going to call this method. It's going to set the width and height of the clock, because this is a default property you need every time you construct a clock. And then you call the write label. So this write label is going to update the string here. Okay, so the entire structure, it looks like this. The similar structure is used in clock pane as well. The only thing different in clock pane is that the overall structure is a bit more complicated. But you can see that clock pane and set current is basically the same thing. The set width and set height is the same thing. What's different is that in this write label, we have a write clock here. Write clock. And write clock is a bit more complicated. We will need clock hands. We will need clock properties like radius, the center x coordinate and the center y coordinate. We will need signs indicating 3, 6, 9, 12, and also dots indicate other numbers. Something like, oh, okay, this is not the main class. Okay, let's execute it. Okay, put it here. Okay, what this does is that you need a circle. This circle actually has a center coordinate and a radius. So the coordinate is going to be here, and then the radius is going to span all the way here. So it's going to be this outer circle. And then you have a color of, you have this color, and then you have the stroke. So the stroke is going to be the outer rim. It's going to be black, and the stroke width is 3. So it's just a bit of styling to make the entire thing more consistent, because the word we are using here is the Arial empty rounded bold. So just adjust the stroke to be consistent with our overall styling. And text is going to be this text, these numbers here. They are text objects, and you can see they are actually from the coordinates. So you can see x coordinate minus 12. This is actually adjustments based on trial and errors. You can see this is coordinate, the central coordinate. So coordinate x minus 12 means that the width, the x-axis, it minus 12 pixels, and then it goes, and then the y, it minus the radius plus 24. So the y-axis, the height, is going to minus the entire radius, and it's going to come to the outer rim, and it's going to be plus 24. Plus 24 means it actually goes down a little bit here, so that it's going to be positioned here. So what this is that the square that enclose this text of 12 is going to be a square here, and these coordinates are actually the top left corner of the text box. So when you're coordinating stuff, you're going to take that as a reference, and similar coordinating is applied to 963 as well. So they are just coordinates and contents. So they are text, and later on you want to add the text inside. So you want to add the text inside the pane. Okay, and then you have a font style. So you want to set a fixed font style for all four of the text. And in this case, I use a circle to represent the other numbers. So 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is also from trial and error. So you can see it is basically at the pointed numbers is actually precisely pointed. So you want to make trial and error and adjust the coordinates one by one. So because this is a circle, if you get the correct position for one, the other stuff are just interchanging the value here or the plus and minus sign. And this 2 is actually the radius of the circle. If you set it to 1, one of the dots is going to look thinner. One of the dots is thinner here. So it's actually just the radius of the circle. Okay. And this is going to be the length of the second line, the minute line, and the hour line. So the second line is going to be the radius, but it's going to be 65% of its length. Shorter, even shorter. Okay, this thing is going to be the x coordinate of the second hand. So what we do is that we actually need this is our starting middle coordinate, and we have a clock hand here. So we have a coordinate here, and this coordinate is going to have a x and y coordinate. So what we do here is actually we want to determine the x and y coordinate of the hand, and with the coordinate we are going to construct the line. So how do you calculate this coordinate? Is actually a pain in the beep. So okay, you want the center coordinate, you want the length of course, and then you want to shift the length. So you want to shift the length in the x direction. So you actually use the sine function. Okay, and then you use the second. How many second is there? 2 times pi over 60 because we have 60 seconds. And this is just a formula to transfer this to transfer the value of second into a value of degree. So with a degree here and with a sine function, it gets the value of where it should be. So by using the length here, you ensure that the length is constant with this one. And you just take note that this is plus, this is minus. If you accidentally put it as plus also, the clock hand is going to be displaying a very funny behavior. It's going to go backwards. So just take note. And also in the y coordinate, you're using cosine instead of sine. So go figure. Okay, so line, you construct the line, you have the center coordinates, you have the second set of coordinates. So it's actually something like this. You have the start x coordinate, and then you have the start y coordinate, and then you have the end x coordinate, end y coordinate. So start of line and end of line. So you have two sets of coordinates. So this is basically what this means. And you want to set stroke, meaning the color of the line. Because you want to do this multiple times, you need to clear them off first. Otherwise, you will have a duplication of children error. and then only you want to add it. So the first thing you add is the circle, the outer circle there. Let me just go and launch this. Okay, so the first thing you add is the circle. So it's going to be at the bottommost layer here. So in case if the line is so long that it overlaps with the circle, the line is going to show in front of the circle. Because the circle is added first, it's going to be the bottommost layer. And then you have all these smaller circles indicating these dots. And then you have the text, this text. And then on the uppermost layer, you have the line. So these lines, they are going to go over everything. Okay, so the entire explanation of the code is done with, I believe. And if you still have any confusions or any questions, just ask in the comment section. I will try to answer as best as I can, and good luck on your studies. Thank you for watching this video. So have a good night or have a good day.